caught my surprise. Thank you.
I'm so honored to be here, you know. It's such a gift to be asked to speak here to me. And because my momentum is all about reaching more people, reach out to people, share this freeing truth as I am discovering it and accessing it with, all the time. It's a great life. So I recognize each one of you for being here with us today, and I love you, and I bless you, and I thank you. I celebrate you. Oh, all right. Now I got to tell you a few funny things. The things that you were saying in Hamid Bey's writings reminded me of a story that I want to tell in my talk, and I want to tell it first before I give the talk, because I keep forgetting this story as I go through the outline. I drop the story. So I want to tell you this story because it just illustrates how we're all in this together. And to the degree that we can plumb the depths of our compassion and consideration for each other, and that we can open our hearts and minds to a creative influence and energy that is full of laughter and gentleness, life is richer. It's richer. So this is something that happened to me, in the parking lot of my apartment complex along about 1993. My kids were still in high school, and I had been on a long road of, getting by on living on thin air. And my father had given me one of those Chevy Citations when my wonderful Plymouth Fury station wagon, I went out of town, and it was cream colored. I called it a dreamboat. And my roommate drove it, and she parked it in the driveway and left the brake off, and it rolled off the edge of the cliff of the house and landed on its nose. So my lovely father, he says, well, these Chevy Citations, they just came out. They're so cheap. And he came into a windfall of money, just bought me one, a brand new one. Well, those things lasted 100,000 miles. They just dissolved. So I was on like the 120th mile of driving that car. And it was a stick shift. And in order to put it into reverse, you had to lift it up and move it over. And the thing that put it into reverse was just a little protrusion, a little plastic thing that stuck out on the gear shifter and held the whole motor up to go into reverse. Well, that little plastic protrusion broke off. Uh-oh. So there was nothing wrong with my transmission, but to replace the whole gear shifter to get that little protrusion off back was quite expensive. So I just decided to drive the car without reverse, you see. Well, that involves never parking in a position that you had to back up to get out. That's simple. Okay. But in the apartment complex where I live, where this incident happened in the parking lot, so we had I was no longer living in the house with the cliff on the backyard. So we had a parking lot that you pull in, if I can get you to, you pull in the nose in. So in order to get out, you have to back the car up. There was no other way. So every morning I would go out and I would open the door and release put it in neutral, and then push the nose of the car, push the car out into the parking lot because it was level ground, and then get in the car and drive off. Well, the maintenance man, bless his heart, African-American man, elderly man, maybe in his 50s, he noticed me doing this. And so he started to show up every day, right at the time when I left for work, and push me out. That was so nice. Well, now time goes on, and I get a job at the Jenny Craig Weight Loss Center. Remember those? They peaked and then they died out. But in the heyday of the Jenny Craig weight loss, I was in Jenny Craig weight loss counselor, and the way that is rigged is that you make your money. You get a basic salary of so many dollars an hour, I think it was $6 an hour, plus you get $2 for each client that you see in an hour, up to 3. And so there's competition for the clients, right? So the counselors are, you answer trying to get the phone first. Oh, who's calling? Oh, do you need an appointment? Oh, I've got one right here. So when we would have the staff meetings, the manager would tell us, okay, now the person with the most clients is so-and-so, and then comes so-and-so, and so it was a competition. We got recognition for the most clients we saw, except for this one gal, Danielle. Her father happened to be the president of the board of Communication Satellite Enterprises. She had just graduated from college, and she lived at home in the lap of luxury. She was their only daughter. And the only reason she was working there is because her parents told her that she had to have a job just to be respectable. And so she would cover the phone, and every time the phone rang, she'd book the client with somebody else. She would never book it with herself because all of us other ladies were struggling financially, and she wasn't. But she would have to go through every staff meeting with, Danielle, you're still at the lowest end of the poll here. You're just not doing well. You're not seeing enough clients. And she would always say, I know, I'm sorry, I'll do better. But it was years later, maybe a couple of years after I left that job, that I looked back and realized, no, she was doing that on purpose because she was compassionate and sensitive and human, and bless her heart. Yeah. So then one day, I don't know how she knew that I needed a car. She said, well, Daddy just got a new Cadillac, and he's going to give his car to Mom, his BMW, and Mom's going to give her whatever it was to me. I'm just going to have to sell my new Beretta. I just got it, and it's just the blue book price is $4,000. And I just happened to have gotten $4,000 from a windfall that my ex-husband and I had to split of mutual funds. I said, well, I have $4,000. Can I buy it from you? She says, sure. So I bought the car from her, a beautiful Beretta, great condition. She said, even the dealer says I've kept it in mint condition. So I go back home, and I tell the guy when he comes out to push my car the next morning, I say, I'm going to get a new car, and it's got reverse and everything. And he says, oh, do they come like that? I just never got over that. Isn't that cute? Yeah. Okay. So now I want to show you one more thing. So this was the program folder this morning. I'm going to pass it around. The topic was growing in love through trust. This is a picture of trust.
Oh.
It's my daughter and her baby when her baby was first born. Just pass it around so everybody can see it. Yeah, because there's a baby smiling, and I think it was within a couple days of birth. But babies are not supposed to be able to smile that young. And I just think that picture illustrates trust, and I'm very proud of it. Okay. All right. Now, the secret to healthy relationships. But I want to tell you, I'm not just talking about healthy relationships. I'm talking about relationships that come alive, that light up, that become memorable and unforgettable, and like that moment, just fills your insides with something joyous and delightful and freeing. But it's a lifelong education, isn't it? This journey of learning to love more. And I say there actually are many secrets to relationships. Whatever the thing is you don't know, that's the secret you need to know. But what I'm going to talk about tonight is getting to the next level after you get everything handled to be well adjusted. So here it is. There have been so many breakthroughs, so many self-help works to get us on the track of success in our relationships. Can you name a few? Like the 5 love languages? You know that one? And men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Well, that one went over. But I'm not talking about just those healthy relationships, but not relationships that are just working well, but beautiful, alive relationships. When I typed this topic in, the secret to healthy relationships, I typed in, by accident, the secret to happy relationships. I think that was a Freudian slip. So relationships are the workshops, the classrooms of our lives. We learn everything we know about love in the context of relationship and the give and take of intimacy and connection with other people. So first, let's lay the groundwork, the necessary skills for a relationship to survive our human frailties. Okay. So this is a joke. I don't really mean this, but just to show you the irony of a coupling relationship. The problem with being in love is that if you are in a couple relationship and you're not in love, it's not really worth changing yourself for. I mean, you don't really have the motivation to step up, find your wholeness, and be in that relationship. On the other hand, if you are really in love, you become so irrational that it's fairly impossible to step up and sort out your feelings and your old wounds. And so therefore I say, love is impossible. But there are ways around it. No, there are. So if I were starting a new relationship, one of the things I would consider doing is just packing off and going to a landmark forum. Anybody ever been to one of those? She has, yeah. It's a seminar that takes you through, in 3 days, it takes you through about 10 years of therapy. And I say it just gets you out of the conversation that you're living in. We all kind of adapt to a certain, we've made choices over the years. And so that's a great way to get more connected with another person going to it. And I went with my daughter to a landmark forum last summer when she came over to visit. And it was great. Okay, so that's one thing. Just avail yourself of resources that attract you. And be aware that in the feedback loop between people when they're talking, very important to clean up your language. And Autumn caught me last week being generalizing a complaint. When you want to settle an issue, something that's happened between two people that you want to clear up, you can't say, you always leave the dishes in the sink. You have to say, when you left the dishes in the sink last night, it was inconvenient for me, or whatever it is. And that you'll see that throughout the relationship self-help work. The place I first saw it was a book called How to Fight Fair in Love and Marriage. When I was first married, I got that. And it just said, you cannot generalize. You can't say, you never tell me that you love me. You can't say, you always, whatever you want to say. Just be specific. Create a statement to offer someone as feedback that describes a certain moment and a specific action that they did, and take it from there. And then there is this wonderful work by Harville Hendricks called Getting the Love You Want that initiated a form of therapy called imago therapy. And it shows people how to get past that deadlock when two people are really intimate, really close, and then conflict, become embedded in conflict. It's almost always can be described as, whose pain is more important, yours or mine? And if you really loved me, mine would be more important. See, and there you have an impasse. And the imago therapy helps to get people through that, to navigate through that, so that both sides are honored and healed. So that's imago therapy. That's a lot of therapists in the area can be certified in that work. And it's all described in this book called Getting the Love You Want. It took me a long time to get around to reading that book, even though many people told me, you should read this book by Harville Hendrix. It's great. But when I saw the title, Getting the Love You Want, it sounded selfish to me. It sounded manipulative. It sounded self-centered. Getting the love, getting. But maybe they should rename it or something. But no, it's a very honorable work of really healing the wounds that your early caregivers gave you that puts you in a position of expecting that from your mate or your partner. If you open your heart and mind to the activity of divine spirit and then use that activity energetically to share with another, something different happens, something timeless, something healing, something uplifting. And this, I think, is the secret that goes unnoticed, unplumbed. There's an energy that is imprinted on us when we interact with each other, from each other, and we have power over what that imprint is. So I'm talking about energetics here. First, you have to see that every person, including yourself, is a divine spirit expressing a divine eternal spirit, and that every person is unfolding in a pattern of expressing greater and greater good, in a perfect pattern, in fact. So have you got that fixed in your mind, that, energy, relationships are based on recognizing the divinity in another person and in yourself, and trusting that divinity as an ongoing, unfolding, perfect pattern that you are engaging with in yourself and the other person. Now, then you have to be willing to take responsibility for balance in the relationship. Have you experienced, getting a great download of light and inspiration spiritually, and then turning to the room of normal human beings, and you're way out of balance with everybody. You're people kind of, there's too much energy there, or they're on a different wavelength or something. So you have to take responsibility for balancing the spiritual energy that you're accessing to use for great relationships. Giving and receiving in balance. Time availability in balance. Intensity of focus in balance. And the level of commitment in balance. These things are done by communicating and negotiating and being sensitive and being willing to match what the other is capable of offering. I had a conversation with a friend lately who said she's really what we would call out there, woo-woo kind of, knows a lot about spirituality and beyond. And so she was having work done on her roof. These workmen came, and she was creating a relational world with them and completely leaving out, dropping all of the things that she loves to talk with me about, the ascension, the paradigm shift, the awakening of consciousness throughout humanity, the transformation of systems and institutions and all that stuff, and just talk with these guys about everyday stuff. Just be present to them. And I was really impressed of how she really felt good about the fact that she had stayed in balance with what these men were bringing into her world, into her sphere. In a well-adjusted relationship, there's no comparing, there's no possessing, there's no expectation, there's no jealousy, and no passive-aggressive. Did you feel the energy go down as I said all this? I'm not going to give examples of those either. We know what that is. And then there are healthy boundaries. The boundary is expressed and respected. We have to do that. I've got some little kids staying in my house, and they want to play all the time. They think I should be available to them all the time. So, like this morning when the little girl came up to brush her teeth, she says, "Will you help me get my toothbrush?" I said, "You can reach it. Let me see you try." So, in being not compliant with all of their requests, I feel that I'm setting the beginnings of some boundaries. So when you get to a point of actually being well adjusted, then go into high gear. The next step in relationship that takes you to true fulfillment, a special kind of happiness that is truly a pleasure. So I want to pass these out. This is from an old workshop that I did. Here, let me get some over here. Oh, sorry. Just to show you that. The first step. This is from the movie Avatar, where they were saying, "I see you." Remember that? And I just think, just reading through that little circle, it says, "I see you. I see your soul, your true essence. I see who you really are. I respect you. I salute you. I love you. I honor you. I recognize you. I receive you. I connect with you." Whoa. That's the power of seeing another person and telling them how you see them. Now, have you heard me speak before of poeting in relationship? Poeting. I have spoken of it around, but maybe you've heard of something else that describes this. It's the cutting edge of human evolution, this poeting, this next step in relationship. It's to be able to be in relationship with freedom, with no codependence, with balance, and romance. You know, there's romance, there can be romance in any relationship, between kings and servants, between family members, between employers and employees. Romance, well, it's kind of like what in the movie Pinocchio, what the blue fairy said: "Prove yourself brave, truthful, and unselfish." Don't have everything that you do be connected to money. That's, you know, when people say, "Well, I did it for the romance of it," that's kind of what that means. So now back to the energetics. When you open your mind and heart to the activity of spirit and infuse that into your interaction, a new kind of creativity and aliveness happens. It requires that you trust spirit to inspire you with things to say and ideas to share. It requires that you trust spirit to accept I got all mixed up here. Let me start over again, this paragraph. Okay. It requires that you trust spirit to inspire you with things to say, ideas to share, possibilities to invent, and you trust the divinity in others to receive it. It's like lighting a fire. In recent topics, I've emphasized that there's an energetic component to the qualities we seek to attain. Like I was talking about, to be on the negativity police, to avoid negativity. It's not a rational thing. It's a feeling that you identify as a red flag and push away. Negativity, you just let it go. The same with power addiction. It's a feeling, it's an energy that you can learn to recognize and red flag it and use your power of renunciation to send it off. Don't let it in your energy field. But we're working with energies. We're using ourselves as spiritual beings to attune and to choose the thought vibration that we want to cause and transmit to the world. You see. So those thought vibrations are brought in by concentrating on compassion, sharing, accepting, recognizing, appreciating, celebrating, praising those things and beautiful qualities that we see around us. It starts with your positive presence. It starts with your smiling listening, your unconditional positive regard. It starts with that. It doesn't end with that. Humor is a big part. I have example with Matt Scripps. Okay. So here's an example of how relationship rose up among us at this level that I want to offer. So we have this bachelor in our congregation at Unity. He got divorced a few years ago, making him a bachelor, no children, and a spiritual man. And so we have a number of single ladies at our church, right, who are like twiddling their thumbs, waiting for him to get over getting divorced. Well, he had a birthday a few weeks ago, and we all met him for his birthday, just four of us. And he sat at the birthday table, and he pointed to each one of us. He said, "Now, Diane, how are your children? Tell me about that. Now, Carolyn, how are things going for you?" And he never does this. Now, who else was there? Were you there? Anyway, Janet, how are things going for you? And each one of us, he specifically asked us to describe our situation at the moment, which he's never done anything like that before, see? And so then when we all finished talking, he says, "Well, for myself, I can say, I've been going out with my new girlfriend, and we've been doing that." I said, "What? You set us up and had us talk all this time without telling us the big news that you have a girlfriend?" I said, all the ladies at the church are going to be devastated. And he says, "Shall I bring handkerchiefs when I come back?" So in that way, we made it special, the news of his having a new girlfriend. We didn't just take it in stride and feel sorry for ourselves. We made it. we made fun news of it. Now, here's another one. When you have a minister change, you lose some congregants and you gain some, So there was this guy who was coming to church when the previous minister, John Williams, came. And when I took the church, then this guy dropped out, And I'd heard remarks that, well, he really liked what a hippie the previous minister was. And I go, well, I'm a hippie too. So I happened to see the guy on the street. He was mowing the lawn on the street. Now, bear in mind, it's been 5 years. 5 years since he's been there. But he's mowing the lawn, and we recognized each other just in the car. I caught his eye and drove on by, and I thought, wait, I want to talk to him. So I turned around, and I came back down, drove down the street, opened my window, and he actually turned off the lawnmower so he could hear me and wave. And I said, "Hey." He says, "Hey, how you doing? Good to see you." And I said, "Good to see you." I said, "I always thought you stopped coming to Unity because I wasn't hippie enough for you. But look, I'm hippie. Look at me. I am." And he goes, "Well, maybe I'll come back then." So it was Father's Day the next Sunday, I said, "Well, I'm trying to write a sermon on Father's Day. Which would you rather hear? Sentimental stuff about how we love our fathers, or the divine masculine archetype, more philosophical?" He says, I don't know. I said, "Well, would you rather hear something sentimental or more kind of abstractional, being a professional as you are and everything?" He says, "Yeah, being a professional like I am." And then he started to actually sort of sink in thinking about fatherly things. And I had to drive off. But it got me on the road of a talk that honors the fact that when you talk about parental relationships, there's a lot of woundedness you bring up. And that it's much healthier and more healing for us to talk about the divine masculine and the divine feminine parts of our own nature that we are seeking to bring forth. So I'm saying that you can walk through life in this open way of ready to be in the moment with people, ready to create a memorable imprint, ready to receive a memorable exchange, and recognize how exalted it is from the other person and from yourself. So I'm ready to close. I just have a couple more funny conversations I remember. Can I tell you one more? Okay, one more. Well, two more, okay. Well, so this one was when I was at a rally for the youth at Unity. They're the Uniteens, or the what's that called before high school? Junior high age kids. And we were all standing outside the kitchen on a big black top waiting for them to open the doors to serve breakfast. And we were all strangers, we didn't know each other. And so this boy that was right in my eye shot, standing right there, and I just wanted to connect with him, and so I just said, this is what I do. I just go blank, or maybe go snake eyes, whatever you want to call it. Just go, use me, God. I don't know what to say. So I said, have you ever seen The Lone Ranger? He says, yeah. I said, the pairing of the Lone Ranger show with that William Tell overture, that was such a great thing to do. I love that. And he says, my grandfather had the William Tell overture played as he was dying. And I looked right in his eyes and I said, were you there? And he nods. And then we just connected because I was witnessing him, witnessing how great a man his grandfather was to have this music played in this spirited moment of his passing. And the boy was there to witness it, and I was witnessing him witness it. And we just, there we were. No more had to be said. But every time after that I ever ran into him at one of those events, he always looked for me and gave me a big hug. Now, I had no reason to say did you ever watch The Lone Ranger? That was spirit working through me. And, well, this other one, I just can't resist helping children. So I was in an international airport traveling back from Berlin. I think I was in Berlin, starts with an S. What's that big city in the Netherlands? Maybe it starts with an A. Amsterdam. There it is. Amsterdam International Airport. And there was this one family that was walking through the airport, very dark-skinned African people, but dressed up like he was probably some kind of dignitary. And his wife was dressed so stylishly. And the husband was looking all around trying to find where they were supposed to go. The wife looked so dragged out and bedraggled, and her little girl, who was 5 about, looked completely depressed and discouraged. And she had then a little 2-year-old boy who was a perpetual motion machine. His feet, like if he touched the ground, he'd be off. So she was in a process of trying to keep the little boy from running away, and the little girl was being completely ignored, and the father was trying to figure out where they were going. So I just caught the mother's eye, and I said, can I talk? She says, oh, please, anything you can do to help us. So I saw that the little girl was carrying a wheeled suitcase with a picture of Tinkerbell on it. Now, I couldn't assume that she liked the suitcase. Maybe it was just an old piece of junk and she hated it. I don't know. I had to ask her. So I said, do you like your suitcase? And she said, yes. And I looked at her mother and I said, Tinkerbell never speaks. And the mother goes, oh, is this true? She looks at her daughter and she says, Tinkerbell never speaks? And the little girl looked at her mother like she was the wisest sage in the world. And she goes, and they walked on, totally energized. Bless their hearts. Bless their hearts. Isn't that sweet? Isn't that sweet? Okay, so as we emerge into the future of a world that is in partnership with all of life, we show up with positive energy, with willingness to do the will of spiritual guidance, and with hearts that are powered by divine love and illumined with the light of divine mind. Amen. Thank you. Okay.